we're going to look at a shocking story from a place that not many people remember, but it will definitely shock you. This is the shocking statement from the Pawn Stars community. Rumors are spreading that Richard Kevin Harrison, better known as Rick Harrison, has been sentenced to life in prison. Rick was known for being very practical in business and having a huge amount of knowledge. He now has to deal with a serious legal problem that no one saw coming. If you want to learn more about this story, make sure to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss it. Stay tuned for any breaking news. We'll be working in the forgotten country and then getting back to work, which is a good thing. I will kick him. That's shocking news for Pawn Stars fans. Richard Kevin Harrison, better known as Rick Harrison, has been sentenced to life in prison. Rick is known for being practical in business and having a huge amount of knowledge on the show, but he suddenly found himself in serious legal trouble, which was something no one saw coming for a long time. People watched Rick Harrison's famous pawn shop in Las Vegas to see the exciting world of trading rare artifacts, the tough negotiations, and the daily dramas that happened there. But now, Rick's rising TV career has taken a dark and unexpected turn. What did he do to deserve such a harsh punishment? Let's look at what happened in Rick's life and the shocking details of this case. Richard Kevin Harrison is an American businessman and TV personality who was born on March 22, 1965. Rick's family moved from Lexington, North Carolina when he was 2 years old to San Diego, California, where he spent most of his childhood. When he was 8 years old, Rick developed epilepsy, which made him spend a lot of time reading, which helped him learn a lot about history that would later help him in his career. Rick's childhood wasn't easy. His battle with epilepsy caused him to miss a lot of school, and he eventually dropped out in his sophomore year of high school. However, this setback didn't stop him. Instead, he spent all of his time self-educating by reading a lot of books on business and history. His encyclopedic knowledge on Pawn Stars was a result of this approach. When Rick was a teenager, he started working with his father on different business ventures, where he learned valuable skills like recognizing value and authenticity that would help him in his future career. When Rick was 17, his girlfriend Kim got pregnant, which led to him starting to study business on his own. They got married and had 2 sons, Corey and Adam, before getting a divorce after 8 years of marriage in 1981. Rick's family then moved to Las Vegas, Nevada, where his father, Richard Benjamin Harrison, also known as the Old Man, opened a coin and bullion store in 1981. The business grew and became the famous gold and silver pawn shop by 1989, which would become the setting for Pawn Stars decades later. The change from a coin shop to a pawn shop was a smart move, because the Harrison family knew that the higher Rick and his father worked long hours to build a reputation in Las Vegas. In the early years, the pawn business was full of problems. Rick often had to deal with difficult customers and sometimes dangerous situations. These were learning experiences that would help him become better at negotiating. By the early 2000s, Rick was famous in Las Vegas for his knowledge of many types of collectibles and historical artifacts. The pawn shop was known as a place where unique and valuable items could be bought and sold. Rick realized that his business could be used as entertainment, so he started pitching the idea of a reality TV show based on the daily activities of the pawn shop. After years of rejections and persistent efforts, Rick finally made a deal with the History Channel in 2009. Pawn Stars premiered, following the day-to-day operations of the gold and silver pawn shop and featuring Rick, his son Corey Big Hoss Harrison, his father Richard Old Man Harrison, and his friend Austin. Rick, a local pawnshop owner, became a TV star overnight thanks to his blunt, straight-talking style and extensive knowledge of historical artifacts. His famous line, "The best I can do is become a legend," became famous as he negotiated with customers wanting to sell their treasures. What made Pawn Stars different from other reality TV shows was the educational aspect Rick emphasized. Every episode included historical information about Rick, often gave context and detailed background about the things that were brought into the shop, showing off his huge knowledge. This approach drew in a lot of viewers and made the show one of History Channel's most popular. Under Rick's leadership, the pawn shop grew, bringing in tourists from all over the world to see the stars or even to be on an episode. Rick used his fame to write books, make personal appearances, and even start his own business. Rick started a restaurant after Pawn Stars' success and has since been on many talk shows, been in magazines, and become a sought-after speaker at the Business of Defense. His story of success has touched many Americans, and his honest business advice has earned him respect outside of the entertainment industry. As the face of Pawn Stars, Rick is known for his sharp business sense and straightforward approach. He is often the voice of reason on the show. Rick's relationship with his father was based on mutual respect that they had built up over many years of working together. When his father died in 2018, Rick showed that he was committed to honoring his legacy by continuing to run the business with the same principles. Rick's personal life had its ups and downs during the height of Pawn Stars' fame. After his first marriage ended, he married Tracy Harrison, and they were together for 27 years before splitting up. Rick got divorced in 2011 and married Deanna Barrett in 2013, in a ceremony officiated by his co-star on Cars, Danny Coker. Chumley was the ring bearer. Most of Rick's family life is kept secret, but it does come up in discussions on the show from time to time, showing how devoted he is to his family despite the demands of fame and business. Rick Steele signed a licensing deal for pawn transactions in 2011 and wrote My Life at the Gold and Silver about his life and business. His business philosophy has always been to look for new ways to grow his brand and his operations. Throughout his career, Rick has shown an amazing ability to find value where others might miss it. On Pawn Stars, viewers watch as he evaluates everything from historical documents to classic cars, and from ancient artifacts to modern collectibles. His knowledge seems to go on and on. Like any smart businessman, he calls in experts when he doesn't know enough about an item. Rick has bought and sold many things on the show. Some were great deals and others weren't so great. His knowledge of watches, guns, and historical US items has often led to successful transactions that turned small investments into big profits for the shop. One of his most famous purchases was a Super Bowl ring from the 2001 New England Patriots, which he paid $1 million for. Among his purchases was a group of Spanish gold doubloons found in a shipwreck in 1715, which showed his interest in both history and precious metals. Rick's life has been full of bad things, most of which were his own fault. For example, in 2023, federal agents raided his home in Las Vegas as part of an investigation that had been going on for months. At first, most people didn't know what the investigation was about, which led to widespread confusion. Speculation online. The raid came as a complete shock to fans, and even those in the industry close to Rick. FBI agents, along with IRS investigators and representatives from the Department of Cultural Heritage Protection, executed a search warrant at Rick's home, and the gold and silver pawn shop employees and customers present during the raid at the shop were temporarily detained while agents seized computers, documents, and some items from the shop's inventory. Rick's son Corey, who was present at the store during the raid, later described the scene as surreal and likened it to a movie scene. According to witnesses, Rick remained calm as the Secret Service escorted him out of the house, staying composed even as neighbors recorded the moment on their cell phones. The footage quickly spread on social media as details began to emerge. It was clear that authorities were investigating allegations of a sophisticated tax evasion scheme, money laundering operations involving high-value items passing through the pawn shop, and claims of trading in illegally obtained artifacts. The investigation was clearly triggered by suspicions raised by transactions flagged by financial organizations and complaints from former business partners in the weeks following the raid. The History Channel suspended the airing of Pawn Stars and issued a brief statement saying they were monitoring the situation and would make an appropriate decision when more information became available. The gold and silver pawn shop remained open, though it saw a significant decrease in customers due to the legal. The investigation into Rick's actions became a cloud over the business's music operations. Rick's representatives strongly denied any wrongdoing, saying the investigation was just a misunderstanding that would soon be cleared up. His lawyer, David Marshall, a famous Las Vegas lawyer known for representing famous clients, told the public that Rick had always run his business honestly and in line with all laws. However, as the investigation went on, troubling details started to come to light. Initial reports from the authorities said they had found proof that Rick was part of a complicated scheme to lie about the value of some historical artifacts for tax purposes, while selling them privately for what they were really worth. Investigators also said Rick knew he was buying stolen historical items through middlemen, such as important historical documents and artifacts from museums and private collections. These claims were later made public in court documents. An investigation was partly started by a former employee who had worked closely with Rick to get some of these high-value items. The whistleblower told the police about a separate accounting system that Rick is accused of using for transactions he wanted to keep from official records. Rick was arrested but released on bail the next day and had to go to court a few days later. He is facing several serious charges, including tax evasion, money laundering, trafficking, and theft. Rick's lawyer David Marshall said that Rick strongly denies all charges and will fight them in court. The legal battle then went on for almost a year, with Rick maintaining his innocence throughout. However, as more evidence came to light and former employees testified against him, his position became more precarious. The prosecution showed financial records, encrypted messages, and testimonies from former employees who did work for him. They They said Rick had told them to change documents for several expensive items, and they showed proof that he had set up foreign accounts to hide profits from some very expensive deals. One of the most damning pieces of evidence was a series of text messages between Rick and an unknown supplier, where they talked about how to remove provenance from an 18th century document that was allegedly stolen from a university archive. In another exchange, Rick was accused of talking about how to structure a sale so that it wouldn't lead to any reports being made. Rick's public image didn't change during the pre-trial proceedings. He went on several conservative talk shows and said he was being targeted because of his political views and success. His supporters rallied around him, making hashtags like #HatchRickFree and planning protests outside the courthouse during hearings. Rick had made a big impression on many fans, who stressed that no matter what the accusations were, he had a positive effect on. One supporter said, "Rick taught me to love history in a way that school never could." They encouraged people who were affected by Rick's work to join these online support groups. The courtroom was silent as the sentence was read. Rick, who had remained calm throughout the trial, could be seen holding his son Corey's head in his hands. Chumley, who had been to every day of the trial to support his mentor, could be seen quickly leaving. Many lawyers were shocked by Rick's sentence, saying it was too harsh for the crimes he was accused of. The judge stressed that the sentence was fair because it took into account both the financial crimes and the irreparable damage Rick did to historical and cultural heritage by trafficking stolen items. The judge said that Rick had lied about being a protector of history and heritage, but in reality, he had stolen and destroyed irreplaceable items for personal gain. After the sentence, Rick's lawyers immediately filed an appeal, saying that the punishment was too harsh and unconstitutional because the crime was not violent. They also asked that Rick be released on bail while they waited for the appeal, but this request was turned down. The picture of Rick in handcuffs quickly became a news story, and many longtime fans were shocked and said that there must have been a mistake during the trial. Academics and people who work with cultural heritage welcomed the harsh sentence as a necessary deterrent against the trafficking of stolen artifacts. Rick's case sparked an unprecedented wave of unity among his fans. The Heart for Harrison campaign got over 100,000 signatures on a petition calling for a review of Rick's case. Supporters said that the life sentence for non-violent crimes was unfair and reflected revenge rather than justice. They encouraged people to join the campaign to support Rick by signing the petition and giving money to his legal defense fund. Corey, Rick's son, said that even though his father did wrong, he didn't deserve to die in prison and should have been given a chance to make things right. This showed how much support Rick had during this difficult time. The History Channel, which aired Pawn Stars, quickly distanced itself from Rick. They officially canceled the show and took away all reruns. In a statement, the channel said they expressed deep disappointment with Rick's actions and reaffirmed their commitment to treating historical artifacts and cultural heritage with respect and the law, despite his legal problems. Rick had a big impact on reality TV and the pawn industry before he got into trouble with the law. Before that, he built an empire that went far beyond his pawn shop. His drive to be successful led him to open several restaurants and bars in Las Vegas, and he had plans to take his business to other cities. Shop, which is now run by his son Corey Harrison, is still a popular tourist spot in Las Vegas. Even though the number of customers initially dropped after Rick got into legal trouble, Corey worked to rebrand the store by putting an emphasis on honesty in all transactions and working with museums and educational groups to promote ethical collecting practices. In an emotional interview 6 months after his father's sentencing, Corey talked about how hard it was to keep the family business going while also dealing with the legal issues. Concerns raised during the trial led us to create strict new rules to make sure the origin of every item we buy, he said. What happened was wrong, and I am committed to being part of the solution, not the problem. Chumley, who has always seen Rick as both a mentor and a father figure, talked about his mixed feelings in a podcast interview. "I've learned so much from Rick, good business practices that I will carry with me forever," he said. "I never saw another side of him, or maybe didn't want to see." It has been difficult for the Harrison family, but their focus remains on rebuilding their reputation and business while supporting Rick throughout the appeals process. Corey, now fully in charge of the family enterprise, has shown great business acumen, surprising many who once knew him primarily as Rick's occasionally impulsive son on the show. The Harrison family has been deeply moved by the love and support from fans worldwide. The encouraging messages, he's read every letter sent to him and has found strength in knowing so many people still believe in him despite everything, Corey said in a recent press release. "Rick needs your support more than ever. Please continue to support Rick and the Harrison family by liking and subscribing to the channel to stay with them on this journey." The family has held prayer circles every Sunday outside the pawn shop where loyal fans gather to show support if you can't make it to Las Vegas. Supporters of Vegas are asked to send letters, cards, or even photos of happy moments from the show. These small acts make a big difference to a man who is going through a rough patch. "My father taught me everything I know about this business," Corey said in a recent interview. "The good parts of that education are what I'm trying to build now. We've made some big mistakes, but this picture has been part of Las Vegas for over 30 years, and I am determined to making sure it stays here for another 30 years. Rick's journey, from a small pawn shop owner to a reality TV star, businessman, and now a prisoner serving a life sentence, has been nothing short of amazing. His fall from a respected businessman to a public figure who lost his credibility shows how quickly fortunes can change, especially in the harsh light of fame." Music critics have said that Rick's fall was almost Shakespearean, as he was a man who knew a lot about history. One of the Pawn Stars in Trouble cast members, Austin Russell, also known as C.H. Lee, is going to jail tonight. The Las Vegas courtroom was filled with gasps as the judge delivered the final verdict for Ed Austin Chumlee Russell. Russell, who was shocked by the length of his sentence, collapsed in shock. The dramatic scene left everyone stunned and showed how strongly people felt about the case. But what led to the shocking courtroom showdown between the beloved reality TV stars? Here's everything you need to know about the explosive court case that forced the beloved Pawn Star to give up. W considers Chumlee to be one of the most entertaining reality TV characters, praising his sense of humor, easygoing personality, and unmatched ability to bring authenticity to every episode of the hit History Channel show, Pawn Stars. During his more than 10-year career on TV, he had memorable moments like buying a pinball machine, showing off his video game skills, and his popular catchphrases. But Chumlee's legacy goes far beyond his TV successes. His impact on the collectibles market, his role in making Gold and Silver Pawn Shop famous, and his choice to build his personal brand all paint a picture of a man who went from working in a pawn shop to becoming a cultural icon. Chumlee's TV career was built on his natural charisma and unwavering commitment to being himself. Although he was initially skeptical and even called the clown of the shop, he refused to let stereotypes define him. Instead, he focused on becoming an expert in certain collectibles, which helped him become a valuable member of Pawn Stars' cast. His performance made him a fan favorite, solidifying his position as the show's breakout star. What makes Chumlee stand out is his ability to deeply connect with the audience, and his realism struck a chord with viewers across the United States. Chumlee became famous on TV, but his business ventures showed how smart he was. After building his personal brand through the show, he expanded into a candy clothing line and personal appearances, which made him millions of dollars. This would later pay for his legal defense against the shocking charges that would affect his loyal fan base. The star of Pawn Stars fame sent both the show and Chumlee down very different paths. The History Channel series, It, quickly became one of the most popular cable TV shows with over 500 episodes airing around the world. The show's formula and high production values made it the most educational and entertaining reality TV show. While Chumlee had to deal with the challenges of sudden fame, the public embraced the knowledgeable character they saw on screen and gave him a lot of support. His personal appearances drew big crowds, showing that his fame went beyond the show's audience. He had a lot of problems behind the scenes which caused tensions that didn't go away over the years. "I've lived two completely different lives," Chumlee told Entertainment Weekly in 2017. "But fame makes you feel invincible, and I'm determined to enjoy every moment, especially when people recognize me everywhere I go." This drive led him to live a more luxurious life, while the show stayed focused on items and historical negotiations. Chumlee's personal life grew to include luxury cars, a mansion, and a huge collection of sneakers and jewelry. His social media posts showing off his expensive items got millions of views, creating a public image that was very different from his humble beginnings at the pawn shop. In the mid-2010s, there was a stark contrast between his career success and personal luxury, both of which reached new heights. The Pawn special episodes of Stars drew over 7 million viewers at their peak, and Chumlee's personal brand grew, with his Chum's Candy Store on Las Vegas Boulevard and a successful product line behind the music scenes. However, Chumlee struggled with the pressure of fame, which threatened to ruin his career, and he often talked about these problems. The sudden rise from fame to obscurity were difficult to deal with. "He used to be able to go to Walmart, but now he can't even," he said. "Not being able to take 500 pictures drives me crazy." During an honest interview, Chumlee said, "I turned to things that helped me cope, and it almost cost me everything." This personal chaos was very different from how professional the show was becoming. By 2016, the gap between Chumlee's public persona and his private reality had grown significantly. While the show portrayed him as a likable, sometimes naive character loved by fans, his real life had taken some worrying turns that would soon be revealed in the most dramatic way possible. which led to legal action. Chumlee was in trouble after years of living a lavish lifestyle. In March 2016, police raided his home in Las Vegas as part of an investigation into a sexual assault. "We executed a search warrant as part of an investigation," Officer Rodriguez said in a press conference. "What we found in that search led to additional charges unrelated to the original investigation." The raid quickly became a big deal in the entertainment world, with websites analyzing how it might affect both Chumlee and Pawn Stars' musical future. A week later, TMZ shocked fans by reporting that police had found guns, drugs, and drug paraphernalia all over Chumlee's house, which was a big change from the happy personality fans loved. "This is not the humble person we know on TV," one fan wrote in a social media post that went viral. This situation changed how fans would watch the show. They were confused, because he never seemed like someone with these kinds of problems. This difference between his public and private life seemed to be the final push. Within weeks, prosecutors had put together a case and filed multiple felony charges against the reality TV star, including counts of weapon and drug possession. Chumlee could face up to 20 years in prison if convicted on all charges. The charges were not only legal, they also posed a serious threat to Chumlee's life. Carefully crafted public image, which was the basis for his entire career and financial success. The lawsuit sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry, with some experts saying it could mean the end of the career of one of reality TV's most famous music stars. Court records revealed shocking details about the scale of the discoveries at Chumlee's home, including evidence logs showing that police had found multiple weapons, including assault rifles, as well as a lot of drugs and related items. As it turned out, the sexual assault investigation that led to the initial search did not lead to charges because there was not enough evidence. The defendant lived a life that posed an unacceptable risk to public safety, read a prosecuting document recommending the maximum penalties, based on the quantity and nature of the items discovered on the first day of the trial. All eyes were on Chumlee as he walked into the courtroom, and camera flashes lit up his sad face. A famous TV personality who had entertained millions of people was now going to court, but he wasn't there. The verdict in this case involved serious violations of weapons and controlled substances laws. The prosecutor had searched the defendant's home and found a lot of weapons and illegal drugs. The trial quickly became tense as pictures of the seized items were shown in court, and Chumlee could be seen staring down at the floor and shaking his head as particularly damaging evidence was shown. During the tough cross-examination, detectives asked if his testimony could prove that Mr. Russell was running a drug distribution business. Chumlee's lawyer questioned the amount and types of drugs found, saying they might have been for personal use even though no scales, packaging materials, or distribution lists that are usually found in drug trafficking cases. The courtroom became very tense when Chumlee's lawyer asked about the guns, collection of weapons, especially historical firearms, and whether such collections needed the right permits and storage. The firearms expert answered, but Chumlee looked nervous and was whispering to his lawyer. The judge told him to keep quiet until he was on the witness stand, where legal experts would talk about possible sentencing guidelines. These charges often carried serious prison time. Former prosecutor James Wilson said that the combination of weapons and controlled substances made the case especially serious. Chumlee's defense focused on the fact that he had never been convicted of a crime before and said that his fame had made him lose his sense of right and wrong. His lawyer said that Chumlee's fame made normal boundaries less clear and that his client got caught up in too much wind, which clouded his judgment. The lawyer also stressed that Chumlee never meant to hurt anyone and had been a great public figure in many ways. As the trial came to a close, fans watched with rapt attention. This wasn't just a legal case. Besides being a battle, this was a big test of Chumlee's public image. It could mean the end of a TV star whose popularity was based on being relatable and harmless. The negotiation of the defense became the main focus of the trial, with lawyers from both sides talking at length about possible solutions. The case had consequences beyond just Chumlee's personal freedom, as it could hurt his career reputation and future role on Pawn Stars. Chumlee's career and reputation were ruined, and his future on Pawn Stars was uncertain no matter what happened. On the last day of court, fans gathered around the courthouse, some holding banners of support, and others wearing Pawn Stars gear. The tension grew as Judge Michael Davidson got ready to hand down Chumlee's sentence after the plea deal in the state of Nevada versus Russell case. Judge Davidson started the proceedings carefully considering the plea deal, negotiated between the prosecution and the defense, along with all mitigating and aggravating factors. The room was so quiet that you could hear the rustling of papers as Chumlee stood there with his hands slightly shaking at his sides. The defendant pleaded guilty to 1 count of weapons and 1 count of drugs, and the other charges were dropped as part of the deal. Chumley's face stayed tense, and his lawyers exchanged cautious looks, but the court had to address how serious the charges were. The judge made it clear that Chumley's possession of both illegal drugs and weapons that weren't properly registered was a major threat to public safety. As a result, he was sentenced to 3 years of probation, counseling, regular drug tests, and losing all the things that were taken during the raid. What was really shocking about the agreement, though, was that Chumley would automatically go to prison for 3 years if he broke any of the terms of his probation. He had to fully understand these terms before the ruling was made. It was like a devastating blow to Chumley after months of uncertainty and the possibility of being locked up for decades. This moment, which should have been a relief, was instead overwhelming as he realized that his freedom now depended on him following the rules to the letter. His face was drenched in sweat as the judge continued to read the full conditions of the sentence, which included that the defendant must complete 200 hours of community service. Hours of community service. The judge's voice slowly became faint because of Chumley's roaring. The courtroom started to spin, and Chumley's lawyer realized something was wrong. He put a firm hand on his client's arm, but it wasn't enough to stop the tension from rising. Suddenly, Chumley collapsed forward, and the sound of his labored breathing echoed through the courtroom. Chumley, who had built his career on his carefree and likable role on screen, had now passed out. In the courtroom, photographers caught the scene, and it quickly became the biggest story in entertainment news around the world. Chumley's sudden physical collapse not only shocked everyone, but it also showed how mentally strained he had been during the trial. Outside of court, Chumley's co-workers and friends, including Rick Harrison, came to visit him, even though many people were worried about his health. His fans gathered to express their shock and concern about the dramatic end of the trial. As soon as the courtroom incident happened, media and entertainment sites were filled with worry and words of support for Chumley. Hashtags like Chumley Strong and #PawnStars Family were everywhere. 3 days later, Chumley's famous smile returned, and he released a video from his home in which he acknowledged and faced the public. Chumley tried to keep things lighthearted in the video, but it was clear he was taking things very seriously. Making better decisions. "I know the doctor was right," he said, trying to find humor again. Even though his health and mental state hadn't fully recovered, there was a noticeable change in his public persona. Chumley started to change how he thought about himself and his career, and in a surprising turn of events, executives from History Channel were reportedly in favor of him staying on Pawn Stars after his recovery. According to an anonymous source, the network saw his legal problems as a chance to create a true redemption storyline. When Chumley made his next statement, it sounded more serious than ever. "Fame clouded my judgment, and I made a mistake that could cost me everything," he said in a serious tone. "I'm grateful for this second chance, and I promise my fans I won't waste it." With a new attitude, Chumley seemed to be focused on getting back to legal business activities and following the court's rules. His fans showed their strong support, but Chumley stayed humble and stressed that his main goal right now was to focus on his health and make better decisions in the future. When asked about the possibility of returning to TV, he said, "Right now, I'm just focusing on being healthy and making better decisions. The show has been my family for many years, and I hope to make them proud." Chumley's legal battle has changed the course of his life and seems to have given him a real redemption story to tell. Media observers have noticed that Chumley, instead of falling into scandal, is turning his attention to good things. Going forward, his fans are hoping for a comeback in both his personal life and his TV career, with strong support from his fans and a second chance from the network. People in the network can't help but guess what's going to happen next for this. Despite Chumley's disappointing exit from the show that made him famous, there is still a lot of interest in Pawn Stars, and many fans are hoping that he will eventually return to the show that made him famous. These fans have watched his rise from an unknown pawn shop worker to a TV star, and the courtroom show could serve as a sobering reminder of the dangers of fame. Just saw a man reach his breaking point, but this could be the start of a more honest public persona finally coming out from behind the carefree persona. What do you think about this change? Let us know in the comments below the video, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next exciting story.